Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Sabrina Daly.
And I am Isani Cayetano. Good morning.
Good morning, Isani. How
Isani.
are you? It is the eve of independence.
Yes. And I'm doing quite fine, thank you.
Yes, you are. You came in all bright and chirpy and happy. That's good for
Perhaps there's a backstory regarding my chippiness. If I can, I'll share that with you later. But yeah, no, I'm in fine, good spirits.
Yeah,
Today is
that's a
the
good thing.
20th of September, and we are anticipating everything that happens throughout the course of the day and into tonight that rings in the 21st.
What's so great is tomorrow is also, excuse me, a holiday because we're celebrating the Independence Day. So
Today
as we
is
start
Wednesday,
celebrating,
Friday.
as we start celebrating tonight into tomorrow, I think it should be a great one. But yes, what shall we jump into first? As you mentioned, that it is the eve of independence, and there's a lot of activities that will be taking place today, as well as tonight, of course, as the eve. But aside from that, there are some other topics that was covered on the news that we do want to
There are heavier matters for us to delve
back
into this morning.
Yes.
I think at the forefront of the public discourse right now is the issue that's taking place over at the courts. As you would know, Monday should have been the official opening of the High Court for the October session. And, the prosecutors, the attorneys working out of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions called in sick. At least 5 of them, we understand, called in sick on Monday. And what many believe is, a deliberate or perhaps a planned or intentional act to send a message against the backdrop that complaints had been forwarded to the incoming Attorney General on their behalf. This was back in July. Where, they were saying, look, new judges are being brought into the judiciary. These judges are being well taken care of. There was a judicial legal assistant that was also brought in, and her contract is cushy in terms of, all the benefits and what have you. And they're saying, well, what about us?
Yeah.
We are doing our part. In many instances, we are doing more than what is required, but our salary is meager in comparison. So that was one aspect of it. The other, they're also saying, well, look,
You need security.
due to the nature of our jobs, security should be provided. If not, then an allowance should be made available for us to be able to pay for these services. Well, when we were finally able to get word from the Attorney General yesterday, those were some of the questions that were put to him. And he maintained that both the issue of security as well as the issue of adequate or proportionate compensation have been addressed. But we wake up this morning with a sense of uncertainty. I mean, do these officers of the court remain out?
Yeah.
Or are they showing up to work today? Are they satisfied with what government has been able to offer in terms of addressing their concerns? We're yet to find out. But today is essentially day 3. I think what we need to understand and appreciate in all of this is that the sick out has real life consequences, right? We opened our newscast yesterday with an interview that I did with Renee Skeen back in back in July, where he had mentioned, look, there has been a total of 17 adjournments since his nephew, Jareth Rangai, was placed on remand for the triple murder in Ladyville. And yet again, on Tuesday, there was an 18th adjournment, you know, and it's against the backdrop that justice delayed is justice denied.
Yeah.
It has been over 10 years for this family.
And we're looking at this family also traveling
Yes.
traveling from another country to come and sit to hear and see justice be served. And
Yes.
in this case, it's not taking place because of the adjournments.
And then that's just one situation or one matter. On Monday, when we you know, brought the news of this action being taken, it should have commenced the hearing in the matter of the another triple murder, another one that included the former Excelsior High School teacher Alarise Andrewin. That too has been adjourned to a further date because of what's taking place in the High Court. You know, it's a situation that I think has to be addressed and has to be dealt with as swiftly as possible in the interest of being able to mete out justice for the families and the relatives of those persons who are either before the court or are the families of the victims of crime.
Certainly. What I thought was interesting, though, was that Attorney General Anthony Sylvester did express that he did not believe that it was some form of action.
I also found that quite curious as well.
He genuinely believed that they are sick. Of course, he also mentioned that this situation has really highlighted the need for these prosecutors and how much their work is really valued. So we will see if it's day 3 and they're still sick.
We're going to continue to follow this.
Yeah.
You know, even if they do return to work today, there's a likelihood that another group may very well call in sick, and then the matter or the issue continues. Or maybe they all return to work and they have the full complement of the DPP's staff. However, we still need to find out if the concerns have been adequately addressed.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, that's what we're talking about this morning. That's what a lot of people are discussing. Aside from the fact that, as we mentioned earlier, it's the 20th of September.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that's going to be taking place across the country tonight, or today, if you want to look at it that way, that will bring in Belize's independence, our 42nd anniversary of our independence.
So what I really enjoy about our independence is seeing all the folks from, of course, here at home, and as well as the diaspora come to celebrate at home. We've been going through the September celebrations calendar day by day to give you an idea of what you can expect as it relates to the events and activities that are being held this September. Today, on the eve of our independence, we are looking forward to the 20th Night Cultural Ensemble that will be at the Memorial Park at 9 p.m. We're also looking forward to the official flag raising ceremony and fireworks display, Sani, and that will also be at the Memorial Park at 11 p.m. And we'll also be looking out to see the 9th annual Soca and Culture Festival. That will be at the Belize Civic Center. Of course, that's a paid event, but we will be talking more about that later this morning. And then it's the 21st, where we are all looking forward to the big celebration tomorrow. And you know that comes with a public and bank holiday. We will be having Independence Day ceremony at the Memorial Park, 8 a.m. tomorrow. The uniform parade with the principal streets of Belize City. The 21st Belize City Bash, and that will also be at the Digi Park as well. So lots of activities for families to come out and to enjoy being Belizean and being at home.
The official ceremony, though, takes place in Belmopan.
Yes.
Where the government officials, including the Prime Minister and his cabinet ministers, as well as the leader of the opposition and other members of the opposition, and of course the diplomatic corps and all of these other dignitaries will be present. I mentioned on Monday that, at least for us in the media, we look at the Independence Day address as sort of the State of the Union. If you compared to what the United States does, where the president of the United States kind of brings the public up to speed with where they are and so on and so forth. So we're looking forward to what will be shared tomorrow by way of the independence speeches delivered by the leader of the opposition as well as the prime minister. Because usually when we juxtapose the two speeches, you see the contrast, right? One is saying we're living in heaven, the other is saying
we're living in hell.
So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to seeing what those speeches bring as well. But I know that it's ultimately a day of celebration, Hisani. We are celebrating 42 years of Belize, of being Belizean. And I am so happy to celebrate that with my friends and family, my coworkers. It's a good day to be Belizean. But aside from that, those are the activities that we will be looking forward to. What I really appreciate around this time is the reflection, though, Isani. And we will also be having a segment specifically for that as it relates to the flag of Belize. I will also hint that that will be this week's Bright Side as well, so you want to look out for that since we won't be having Open Your Eyes tomorrow. But I really think that Independence Day, even aside from Independence Day, we should be always trying to learn more about Belize and why we, are the way we are, why certain things are taking place in the present, and that involves looking in the past. So for me, doing these segments and specifically this week's Bright Side had a lot to do with research and reflection of our past. And it gives you a new added sense of appreciation of your history. So that's where I'm at. And I know that for a lot of other people, it comes with reflection.
Indeed.
All right. But we are going to move over to our morning motivation, Isani, and of course that's taken from dailyom.com. Our eye-opener goes like this. Part of being an intuitive person is becoming in tune with and trusting your power center. Gut feelings earn their name from the place in the body where they make themselves known. A pang in your gut when you may be doing the wrong thing, or a vibrant zing when your body approves, can guide you reliably at times when logic fails. Sometimes, when logic prevails, we ignore our gut and live to regret it, understanding later that a rational approach is only one way of determining what is going on in a situation and how we should react. Many of us have a tendency to hold in this area of our bodies. It is in this place that we find the courage to act, to reach out into the world and create change. When our power center is out of balance, we are timid and out of sync, wishing we had said something we were only able to phrase later when we were alone, wishing we had acted on an opportunity we didn't see until it was past. The more you practice following your gut feeling, the more clear and communicative your gut feelings will be, and the more comfortable you will feel acting on them. Do you trust your gut feeling, Isani?
Yeah, I do. Perhaps not as often as I should, but I do. I think for me, the challenge is, looking at something rationally or logically versus just going with the instinct.
I find you like that.
I'm a very calculated and meticulous person. I try to be. So there's often conflict between what I know should be the course of action versus how I feel and just going with how I feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the eye-opener is excellent in that regard because it speaks to all of us and the fact that we should, in many cases, go with our gut feeling, Is this going to be the right decision or should it be an instinctive, let's just go ahead with it. And I think more should be given in terms of how we feel about an issue.
What I took from the entire eye-opener was this line where it said, sometimes when you don't follow your power center, which is essentially your gut, you feel timid and out of sync. And that's true. Sometimes you are trying to follow logic, right? What makes sense, what you think would be the rational decision. but it just does not feel right internally, you know? And I feel like that's what the gut feeling does, or that's what, you know, people say your intuition would do with you at times as well. I definitely say that there's power in trusting your gut, but I think you have to have a healthy balance as well.
Yes.
Because sometimes
Balance is
our
everything.
emotions could lead us astray and really tell us something totally different, you know? So I think
it's a
good.
delicate situation
Yeah.
when you're looking at what makes sense from an emotional standpoint versus what makes sense from a logical standpoint. The gut feeling kind of lean more towards the emotional aspect as opposed to having thought through something clearly and carefully and then making that decision.
But you know, some people consider their gut feeling or the intuition to be the sound of God in your mind or the universe speaking to you as well. So there are so many sides to look at this. There are so many different perspectives.
I'll put it in Creole, I must say how it is.
Yeah, but that's an interesting eye-opener this morning. And I always look forward to them. So if there's anything that you were able to take from this that will motivate you to maybe trust your inner gut or your intuition, or just to have a healthy balance, we hope that you were able to take that from this morning's eye-opener. But we're going to move over to the weather. And Isani, I'm actually really happy about this week's weather. I feel like we've
You
been
are?
experiencing some very stable conditions. Yes, I believe it was stable.
It rained overnight and it was hot
Yeah,
as
but it
hell
was at
yesterday.
night. Yeah. No, see, this is the problem, right? Because I know you guys
throwing me for a
appreciate
loop
the
here.
rain during the day because you get to water your plants, but I like the dry. I don't like the muck. For instance, last week it was very rainy, and I feel like this is how you should bring in the Independence Day. Dry, not
And
watching
that's your overall description of stable?
Yes, it was stable. But we're gonna get more from the weather report from the National Meteorological Service, and we have with us forecaster Ronald Gordon. Good morning, forecaster.
Hi, good morning.
I'm here telling Isani that we had stable conditions, so perhaps we should take it from the professional.
Hey, Sabrina. Yes, actually, we have a slight increase in moisture over the area
Okay.
and the instability. So, our radar image actually showed a few showers developing mostly along the coast overnight, and then affecting northern and central areas early this morning. We do expect that to continue this morning, and then by this afternoon, the showers and isolated thunderstorms should shift more to inland areas, and then we develop along the coast later tonight.
Oh, so we might be looking forward to some showers to bring in the Independence Day.
Yes, but nothing that should dampen our mood, no? So
Okay.
it's still going to be relatively good.
What's the general outlook for the next few days?
We expect moisture to continue relatively high, but then at the same time, we will have sunny breaks. So looking at Thursday, we expect a similar pattern with early morning showers along the coast and then shifting inland in the afternoon and redeveloping along the coast late Thursday night into Friday morning. So that's what we are looking at.
Okay, and what kind of temperatures can we expect today?
It's still going to be relatively warm with highs of about 90 Fahrenheit along the coast, 95 inland, and about 80 up in the hills. And for tonight, those lows will go down to about 80 along coastal areas, 73 in the interior. And if anybody's up in the Mountain Pine Ridge, relatively cool, 68 Fahrenheit.
Do you have any updates on the marine conditions, the winds and sea state?
Yes, it's perfect for people going out at sea. We expect very light winds out of the east at 5 to 10 knots, and the sea conditions only slight, so relatively calm seas.
Nice. We might be able to go to the Keys even tomorrow.
Indeed.
Forecaster, do you see any developments outside? Because I know that we are still in the Atlantic hurricane season. So are we looking at any storms outside in the Atlantic developing that we should be concerned about?
Well, fortunately for us, at least for the next, I would say 7 to 15 days or 1 week to 2 weeks,
Okay.
there is nothing imminent at the moment. So we're in the clear, but out in the Atlantic, we have Nigel, which is currently, I think, about 590 miles to the east-northeast of Bermuda and heading out to the north at 16 miles per hour.
Okay.
And packing maximum sustained winds of 100 miles per hour.
Wow.
Fortunately supposedly Nigel is going to be a storm that remains at sea, and it's not threatening any land area.
Okay.
And apart from Nigel, well, there is a tropical wave that has just emerged from the coast of Africa that has quite a very low chance of developing in 48 hours, but has a higher chance of developing later on into the weekend or early next week as it heads westward. This wave, we will be monitoring it. One of our models has it coming into the Caribbean, but at the same time, it's very far into the future, so there's a lot of uncertainty at this moment. So there's plenty of time to watch it and see what it does, no?
Okay. Forecaster, I may have the location incorrect, but I heard something about a whirlwind that took place yesterday, and people were talking about it online.
A spout.
A spout?
Yes, I think somebody shared a video with me of that occurring. I don't know where it happened. I cannot say for sure if it occurred in Belize.
Okay.
But I did see a video of it now, and that's all I can say about it.
Okay.
But that typically that occurs when you have extreme heat, and then you have what they call microscale instability near the surface.
Right.
So you have these little whirlwinds spinning up dust and so forth. But yes, again, I cannot say whether it occurred in the country and where, if it did occur in Belize.
Well, Forecaster, thank you so much for the information as always. We appreciate it. And happy Independence Day if we don't get to speak to you tomorrow. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Take care. Bye.
So yeah, the spout actually, from what I was told, happened in the Port of Belize compound yesterday.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I was told about that. So I wanted to bring that up to find out if that was anything that we should be concerned about, because I know that these types of, I'd say, irregular developments take place when there's heat or there's some form of, condition taking place outside. So I wanted to ask. But yeah, that's what we can expect weather-wise from the National Meteorological Service through the weekend, or at least for tomorrow on Independence Day. Isani, just before we go back into the show lineup this morning, I want to say that I really enjoyed the eye-opener so much that I'm thinking, the gut feeling conversation is one that you could probably extend even further. As I mentioned, there's so many perspectives that people would have when it comes to gut feeling. They would call it God speaking to you, or the universe guiding you in some way.
That's why I said earlier in Creole that I must say hard is. I don't know how often I'm actually paying attention to what is being told to me in my inner thoughts or from my gut, if that were the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, it happens to the best of us. We're not always as attentive or as intuitive as we ought to be.
And I think the question is, or the challenge is, when do you use logic over intuition? Or when do you use logic over gut,
Or emotion.
Or emotion, as you would say, So that's the challenge that we most of the time we face. And we don't want to make these mistakes, but we also have several eye-openers before where we spoke about making a decision and knowing or being happy that it came from you, and not trying to make a decision based on what you think you should have done or what someone else would have expected you to do. So oftentimes when you go with your gut feeling, you feel more happy because it was what you wanted or what you felt was right. Versus what you think other people would have wanted. But I just wanted to insert that back in there because the eye-opener really stuck to me this morning. But we're going to move over to our show lineup, and we have 3 great conversations for you. In our first segment, we will be joined by representatives from Niche and UB to talk to us about the history of Belize and also the Belize flag.
The winner of the 2023 Carnival Road March, Soca, they will be joining us this morning to discuss what they've been doing and, of course, what we can expect from them tomorrow in Orange Walk. As I understand, they will be participating in the Orange Walk Carnival.
Yes, I forgot to mention that. Tomorrow is also Carnival Part 2 in Orange Walk. But you can also look out for the Soca and Culture Fest concert that I spoke of just earlier. And in our last segment, we will be joined by international artist Patrice Roberts and also Beanie Man, who will be telling us about their plans for the Belize Soca and Culture concert. definitely looking forward to that segment as well. So we have 3 great conversations coming up, but we are going to take our first break. And when we come back, it's all about the history of Belize and the Belize flag. Don't go away.
Sign up for a Smart Share Plan and save big. Whether you're a small entrepreneur starting up your business, a student on a limited budget, or a family trying to save, this is the plan for you. With unlimited SMS, calls, and data, we help you save. Get up to 5 lines for as low as $30 per line monthly, only with Smart. Sign up today at any Smart showroom or sales manager countrywide. So get your business going, share more memories with friends, and be ready for the day with Smart.
Design Depot, your all-in-one destination for transforming your living spaces. Explore the world of GE with our selection of cutting-edge appliances for functional, convenient, and modern living. Find solutions for every paint project, from home to industrial, with our extensive selection of Sherwin-Williams paints and coatings. Safeguard your home with the durability of our weather-resistant windows and doors. Elevate your kitchen and bath with the timeless elegance of Kohler sinks and faucets. Transform your space with our constantly refreshed tile inventory, always embracing the latest tile trends. Design Depot, your source for innovation, inspiration, and impeccable design. Design Depot, all in one place.
Do you know how to choose the best engine oil for your car? We believe the best engine oil should provide optimal performance and ultimate protection for longer. For Quartz engine oil, our engineers have formulated age resistance technology, also known as ART. It's a breakthrough innovation. The interaction between oil molecules is increased, creating a super resistant molecular structure. So whatever the conditions, it helps to prevent the lubricant protective film from breaking. Any engine is exposed to harsh conditions: extreme temperature and pressure, friction, sludge accumulation. The molecular structure of Quartz with ART stays strong to perfectly lubricate and protect engine parts in all conditions. And the results are outstanding. Protection against sludge buildup improved by 18%. Protection against mechanical wear improved by 74%. Thanks to Quartz with ART, save on maintenance and preserve your engine's power. So next time you wonder which engine oil to use, choose performance and protection that lasts longer. Quartz with age resistance technology. Keep your engine younger for longer.
After a rough week of school, Jake and his friends decide to treat themselves to frozen coffee. And since they don't have cash on them, they decide to use eCash. With eCash's geolocation feature, Jake can easily find the nearest coffee spot. With eCash's built-in option to split bills, Jake can pay the bill and his friends can reimburse their portion of the bill. Jake scans the merchant's code and confirms payment. Jake then views his transaction history and taps on the transaction recently made, then taps the split the bill button where he selects the evenly option to evenly split the bill. The application splits the bill automatically. His friends receive and accept the request. Geolocation and splitting the bill via eCash makes Jake enjoy his digital lifestyle.
Homeowners, immerse yourselves in elegance. Surround yourself with the beauty of one-of-a-kind, quality wood furniture. This is what America's elegant furniture and appliances has to offer. Trendy, affordable, and exceptional centerpieces, large mirrors, vanities, plush sofa sets, coffee tables, office furniture, exquisite mahogany bedroom sets, home decor, mattresses, and so much more. Shop our new reduced prices store-wide and get huge discounts daily. Our layaway and payment plans offer the lowest interest rates guaranteed. Our extensive catalog meets everyone's furniture needs, and if you can't find what you're looking for, then we'll custom make it for you. Shop at Mirka's and save. Mirka's, making your household dreams affordable.
Are you looking for low-cost television advertising? Have we got a deal for you? Advertise on Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds is one of the most effective methods for introducing yourself and your business to the community. Use our Daily Classifieds to recruit employees, promote specials, promote your products or services, promote a business opportunity, increase traffic to your website, and advertise items you have for sale. Let us help you to save valuable time and money. Call us today at 280-0013 or visit us at our offices on Coney Drive to discuss how we can help your business grow affordably. Channel 5 Daily Classifieds. Advertise today.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Marion Ali, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 police teams do whatever it takes, go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 believes on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, because news is now everywhere, all the time, and so are we.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
Do you have information about a crime or a fugitive in our community? You can submit a tip anonymously with your smartphone. Using this program in safeguarding our community also protects your identity, keeping you out of the court system, and could earn you a cash reward. Here is how it works. Download the free P3 Tips app from the Apple Store or Android Market. P3 is the provider of our secure anonymous tip collecting software. Open the app and create a PIN, but be sure to remember that number, then select your location. Next, select the type of crime. When submitting a tip, be as specific as possible. If you have a picture, video, or audio that will help officers, you can upload them from your phone. Information leading to an arrest can earn you a cash reward of up to $1,000. Once your tip is submitted, you'll be given a tip ID and password. Check back if your tip leads to an arrest. You'll be told how much you were rewarded and how to anonymously collect your cash.
It's time that we realize that we must work together to thrive. The world as we know it, the sky and below it. Could I never have more wonder? Yeah, with life and all you see, and the climate's changing.
But hope is remaining.
And we can't ignore the future. It depends on you and me. One chance, all that we got. One voice, together we stand. Take care, the world where we live. Permite a todos vivir. Tomamos la oportunidad para guardar la humanidad. And I must leave no one behind because we are one climate, one Caribbean. One climate,
So stay tuned. Thanks, Jen. Hey there, we know you have to head out to work shortly, but don't forget that you can stay tuned by watching us on our Facebook live stream. Find us at Open Your Eyes BC, and you can continue watching there. You can also download Facebook Watch on your streaming device, and you can watch at your own convenience.
And for all the behind the scenes fun, follow us on Instagram at OYE Belize. So,
find us
and follow us
today.
And welcome back. We have been joined in studio this morning by a lecturer from the University of Belize, none other than Delmer Zib. He's a history lecturer at UB. We've also been joined by Senior Research and Education Officer at the Institute of Social and Cultural Research, none other than Giovanni Pinello. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hi, good morning, good morning.
We're here to talk about independence, not only what it means to us individually, but perhaps from a historical perspective and what it means for the country in terms of its sovereignty and nationhood. So, let's begin by perhaps discussing the events of September 20th, 1981. We have seen the footage where the Union Jack was historically lowered and the Belizean standard, the banner, was raised, and that was the birth of our country. Let's start there.
Hi, good morning. It's an interesting topic. I was a teenager at the time, and I think that it's important too to note that a lot of times we focus on what really went on, as you were mentioning, you know, the changing of the guard, as the Right Honorable George Price speaks of in one of his speeches. But I think that it's also important for us to understand that what happened in Belize City differed from what happened in the quote-unquote out districts. I live in Benque, and my experience then was in Benque, the border town with Guatemala.
What was that like?
And so for us then, when I recall that period of time, and particularly since I delve into history, I'm now able to kind of put the pieces together and give my perspective. Independence, that changing of the guard, or independence, the new beginning, the motto that was at the time, I think was critical for us to look at. Given the circumstances whereby I grew up listening to the mantra of wake up and work. Every day it was, we have a task to do, nation building. We are key persons. We play key roles in our own individual way, wherever we are. And so listening to the radio, because we didn't have access to social media like now, and hearing about the Union Jack coming down and the Belizean flag coming up. For me, personally, when I reminisce now about it, it was something great. It was something joyous. You know, we were looking forward to getting something different. What was that difference? What was the expectation? I think we were imbued with a sense of, yes, we can do, we can achieve. And so I guess that's how I would look at it in answer to that first question you
At the heart of it, nonetheless, though, is George Cadle Price. When we look at the fact that Belize was, for all intents and purposes, born on that night, central to this whole idea of Belize's nationhood was George Price and the work that was done to bring us to that point. Perhaps we can get your take on it from here, Delmar.
Well, I think George Price was instrumental in the process towards independence. I talk about independence in two forms. When we talk about nation building, we have to understand that there are many layers to it, economic, political, social layers to it. I want to focus on two, which is the internal development of nation, meaning the identity aspects of a nation, the flag, the anthem, and all of these other aspects. In fact, Judge Price also speaks that part of nation building was the idea of going into the out districts and making everybody feel to be or become one community. The second aspect to it is that going into the international community and developing sovereignty by recognition and also taking advantage of the right to self-determination in the international community. So those two elements for political independence are very important to talk about, because it's not simply symbolic in the sense of bringing down the Union Jack and taking up the Belizean flag. It's also politically a big message to the world. A new nation has emerged, and this new nation has a specific character, a new character within Central America as a Caribbean nation as well. And Judge Price was instrumental in that. I take a lot of time out to just hear some of his interviews, some of his speeches. I love documentaries, I'm a historian. So, and in one of them, he was looking at the essence of what it means to be Belize, trying to at least discuss some aspects of it, where he was talking about the meaning of the name Belize, how it came to be from a Maya origin to Belize today. At least that's what he was discussing there.
Wasn't there also
there's the Peter Wallace. Yes, there's the Peter Wallace story. But in one of his interviews, he mentions the Belic Inn, and then eventually Belize and Belize. He also speaks of the flag and how all of that story again creates this whole notion of nation building. And really, it was a campaign not only outside of Belize but inside of Belize, because you needed to unify all of these groups of people. And remember, the term out district was used a lot. So not only looking at how you unify the ideas in Belize City, but also how do you bring about Belize Town at that point, but how do you bring about unity with all of the other people around. And well, you have seen all of the images, stories. In fact, even in San Antonio, where I come from, there are stories of Judge Price coming in and sitting down with people. So he encapsulated a campaign that was both national and international.
When you think George Price in those days, you think of the famous Defender Land Rover that took him all over the country. And you see him sitting there with people in sort of like a natural element, right? You know, like when you, there are two ways of looking at certain things. When you're being introduced to someone for the first time, you can tell that there isn't that sense of familiarity between the two parties. But then you could also tell when someone feels at home around people he may not even know. And I think he embodied that. You look at some of the pictures, it just looks natural that he's in the picture talking to these people or what have you. I look at all of what has been done, all of what has been said, but against the backdrop of the fact that Belize was being born at a time when there was this Guatemalan issue that still loomed over her head. So let's go back to that part of it, Giovanni.
Yeah, in Benkian as a border community, of course, the majority of our families, and I dare say even the demographics now reveal it, a number of us have relatives across the border. It's yet the diplomatic fray and the news that would be out, you know, would feature where it's us and them, or us versus them. However, in my view, it differed on the ground. Very, very much differed on the ground in two ways. One, like I said, the familial ties assured us one way or another that, you know, things were not the way that it was being portrayed. Mind you, the British forces were going through Benque Viejo, in the surrounds, across the river, and now we look at it as more of a precautionary measure. Again, we went into independence under curfew.
Mhm.
And as Mr. Sib has mentioned, it was more of an internal matter in that case, no, of the state of emergency. So for us, then there was an assurance with the British forces around, kind of gave a sense of security. As a child, of course, we were more enthused about the war tanks driving up the hill, the soldiers sharing, right, the Harriers flying. I remember some of the schoolmates from across the border with us, and we would tease them. You know, the border was officially closed, but people were going and coming across. So, and so that gives you that sense of, you know, how much insecurity would there be. The exercises of the British forces, and knowing about the Belize Volunteer Force, again, kind of like, okay, what is it? Today we would look at it more as war games, huh?
Yeah.
But on the ground it was different. It was different. And speaking about the Right Honorable George Price coming into the communities, I recall, and just like many Belizeans, my first view of the Right Honorable George Price was in the kitchen in my home, in my yard, when he came in and was speaking with my grandmother, because I grew up with my maternal grandmother. And so that's the first main vision I have of him, sitting down there chatting, as part of the campaign that he would do. 10 years later, I would have the opportunity of riding in his vehicle from Benke to Belize City.
The very same Defender Land Rover?
Yes. Almost 10 years. That was, yeah. But the scenario, no, that is for us outside of the Belize City scenario, that was the element. Independence Day proper, well, we took that pilgrimage to Independence Hill, Belmopan. And I remember standing somewhere behind the West Block in that vicinity, and, you know, just observing what was going on.
Yeah.
Of course, as teenagers, and like I said, for many of us in my generation, my contemporaries, it was about, okay, here's a transition. You don't get to understand it fully until much later on. You know, that having seen and having listened to portions of the speeches that were delivered on that day, the handing over of the constitutional instrument, which now the Institute for Social and Cultural Research, along with the Belize Archives and Record Services, we're promoting it as part of the tour, the national exhibit that features the speeches by the Right Honorable George Price and the constitutional instrument of independence. Now you see the significance of that historical moment.
Yeah.
You know,
Isani asked us to start with September 20th, 1981, but I want to take it a bit back further to essentially the establishment of what would be the then Belizean identity, which would be our symbols, our flag. Let's talk about that.
When we look at the historical records, we know that there were efforts at boycotting the whole consultation process into independence. The select committee that traveled throughout the country, because remember, there was the move to independence was one thing, but prior to that you have the consultations with the people. So the people would, the select committee from the House of Representatives went throughout the country, particularly in the municipalities, and people from the rural areas would also show up and give their advice. We see organizations such as the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Bar Association, the churches, several other civic groups that would come out and give their opinion as to what was required in what became known as, in looking at the white paper. And many a times when I read through those reports now, the people were and we need to ensure that our national symbols are there. Of course, the concept of national symbols had appeared during the early part of the nationalist movement, and with the step towards self-government, there was even a more hyped up, if I can use that term, sense of what are the symbols that are going to represent us. And so those elements then would later on be incorporated into the work of what a national symbol selection committee was going to do. Their work would culminate in August of 1981, whereby they made the submission, and later on that was followed by a resolution passed in the House of Representatives towards the end of August 1981, where the symbols that we know today, the national animal, the national bird, the national flower, the national tree, the motto, the national flag were formally adopted. So that 3 weeks later, September 21st, which by the way is also the time of the summer equinox, there's a change, you know. All of that symbolisms for us when we look at why September 21 and, you know, the other questions, some of the elders in our community, speaking with people like Don Hector Silva, you know, getting information from them, what did they see? How was all of this, how does all of this come in to identify us as Belizeans? Makes for an interesting interpretations of who we are.
Let's get your take on it, Delmar.
Well, I have read several comments on the white paper, and I think that one of the strongest elements that also comes across is the element of language. Almost in every consultation that they made in almost every community, including the rural communities that came to the towns for the consultation, expressed that they would want to have English, and also later on, in some instances, you notice Spanish as well being discussed as part of the national identity. So the consultation itself brought about a lot of discussions about, to an extent, discussions that we're having today in this constitutional consultation as well, where people are bringing out views of what they think Belize should be and how we could make Belize, this nation, have an identity. So those were the discussions that were really coming around. And yes, we had discussions on not only the symbols but the name. In fact, Don Hector Silva posts his pictures of, you know, some historical pictures that he posts on social media showcasing, like, I support Belize. So we must all remember as well that this was all a campaign. So it was something that was brought to the people, and it was something that the people also accepted or had to accept in the process of making these our national symbols. And
so question, we all know that prior to Belize getting its name, it was referred to as British Honduras, right? So were there, if it's a campaign where we're saying I support Belize, was there any other alternative? Was there any other option in terms of what the country could have been named?
Mr. Pinello?
Basically, we don't come across that. Okay. You know, the early archival, the colonial records speak of the Bay of Honduras, the settlement of the Bay of Honduras. It's not until 1862 that it's formally recognized as British Honduras, and then until 1973, when with the constitutional changes, there is the motion again that is presented in the House of Representatives to change the name, and that is accepted. Belize officially becomes the name of our country in colony at the time, no? But as of 1st of June 1973, we officially became known as Belize. In terms of the whole movement to independence, there was an opposition, and in fact, the opposition party boycotted the consultations.
Let's talk about let's get a bit more specific in terms of that aspect of our history?
Yeah, there was a refusal to participate in the consultation process. One of the key things from what we, as we look at the archival records, was the fact that they preferred that the dispute between Guatemala and Britain over Belize be settled
first
before moving on to independence. And in fact, the late Dr. Theodore Aranda himself, who was then the parliamentary leader of the opposition,
he was an opponent to that movement.
He was an opponent to independence, and we see from video footage of his
protest, his one-man protest, with the placard. Yes.
Right, in downtown Belize.
I'm jogging my memory of it. Yeah, these are images that are striking. So.
And similarly, across the country, there were people who were supporters of the wait for a longer period, wait for the solution to be to be carried on, before Belize proceeds into a safe and secure independence. But the general population, I think, and I hope we can, that my words does justice to it. I think the majority of us understood that we had an appointment with history, as the title of one of the Right Honorable's speeches mentions. No? So, so much so then that despite the opposition in the various areas of the country, it was minimal. I would dare say it was minimal.
I think it's also important to highlight that whenever we talk about independence, we always tend, well, in some instances, we tend to be nostalgic, and say, people were in support of it. But it's important to understand that what Mr. Pinello just mentioned are instances of conflict. Right? It was not an easy road. There was opposition. In fact, when you take a look at some of the newspapers and even the speeches that Judge Price delivers, in some of those speeches you could see that he's talking about his opponents. Like his delivery of the messages are very direct, in the sense of saying there are some people who want to have us divided. There are some people who are challenging this movement. So there are spaces where you notice that there was confrontation happening. There was a back and forth. There were, as in every society, you have some people that are not going along with the whole campaign per se. So that is something very, very important to highlight. The second thing to note is that that was the biggest debate, where should we go to independence without settling the claim, or should we wait on settling the claim first and then go to independence? The second part would basically pin us to what Guatemala would want, because until we settle that claim, then we could move for independence. The first one would take us regardless of that issue. And Belize received a lot of pressure internally and externally. So the British also played a role in this, where there was discussion about, negotiating. Let's negotiate, let's negotiate, let's negotiate. And I think the Belize Independence Secretariat and Judge Price were very firm in saying that if we negotiate, we will most likely lose some form of territory. And the big issue here was gaining independence with territorial integrity. And that's why it's important, again, to discuss the internal aspects as well as the external aspects of how this whole nation building came about. Right?
We're going to go into a short commercial break in a few minutes, but I just want to, before we go to break, briefly touch on the heads of agreement, because that is also a huge part of this entire movement. So I'll ask you to continue from that perspective.
Well, as I was mentioning, there was, again, with the same theme of conflict, within the same settlement, there were people that were challenging the whole idea of whether or not we should go towards independence without settling the claim. And the heads of agreement is one of the spaces where you see that there were protests, there were people actually going against it, and there were also a lot of rumors, because the colonial entity, or at least the opposition in some cases, used the whole idea that Judge Price was negotiating secretively with other entities to precisely give up either some form of territory or so on. And these were debates that were happening. And it's important that we also contextualize that the road to independence was not a smooth one, but it was something of consistency where credibility had to be built, and it was all centered as well on this Belizean identity, right?
Yeah.
How do we unify people behind a banner and bring about this new nation in Central America as a Caribbean, with a Caribbean identity as well.
So how do we respond then to this common notion that, oh, Belize never had to fight for its independence, so we don't know what strife and struggle in that context is. You hear that all the time. Because when we look at our Central American brothers and sisters, we're saying, well, El Salvador had civil war, Guatemala had uprising, and so on and so forth. And then, by contrast, we had it easy. People would readily say that we had it very smooth in context.
We took a different approach. That's I think what we need to make clear. It doesn't mean that it was easy. Right? When you read, for example, what Assad Schumann has written in his books, I think his latest one is the definitive history of the Belize Guatemala territorial dispute. He does chronicles a lot of the events that were happening, and none of it is per se a very easy story of what they went through. The Belize Independence Secretariat had to go out there and also campaign and go through some very tough conditions in order for them to achieve what they achieved. And a lot of pressures were seen, because you could imagine the load that these individuals had from the society, again from Belize and from other entities around as well. And they had to negotiate all of that in the process of the mission, which was getting Belizean independence.
We're going to take a quick break, gentlemen, and when we come back, we will continue the conversation of independence from the perspective, of course, Mr. Pinello that was there, and also Mr. Zib, a historian. We will continue the conversation of independence, the flag, and Belizean identity. We'll take a break.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Fulltech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customers' experience. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
In collaboration with Sherwin Williams, bring to you the biggest ever international comedy show that will make you laugh out of your seats in a thing called Fire for That, featuring 4 of the hottest international comedians ever to take the stage in Belize. Introducing to you our hostess, road favorite, and #1 female comedian hailing out of Atlanta, Georgia, USA, none other than Kelly Kells.
I am bringing the funniest people around the world to you, so Belize, make sure you get those tickets. It's gonna be fire. Another one. Y'all know how I do it when I pull up. If you don't know, you need to be there Saturday, September 30th to get those. What last?
Coming out of the Big Apple, New York, Goatman himself, Mr. Reggie Kush Edwards.
What's good, man? It's your boy Reggie Kush, the GOAT.
No stranger to Belize, his 3rd performance from out of the United Kingdom. But is he English or Jamaican? The #1 comedian out of Europe, White Yardie.
Every time I come to Belize, shell down, the place nice, full of joke, everybody enjoy themselves. So don't miss out, this is your warning.
And then...
Good
The main event, the headliner, the king of Caribbean comedy, straight out of Brooklyn, New York, but originally from Kingston, Jamaica, Mr. Fire for that Major Hype.
Yo, what's up? This is your boy Major, aka the King of Caribbean Comedy, and for the first time ever, I'm gonna be in Belize.
The name Fire for that comedy show, I want you. People that don't know, September the 30th, gonna make sure they get it live and direct, you understand? Make sure they get on the money and don't second to the check. Cause the rest are gonna do it. I don't know if they're mad.
It's all going down at the Belize Civic Center, Saturday, September 30. The biggest international comedy hitting our soil. So come on out and bring a friend for laugh till your belly busts. Doors open at 4 p.m. Showtime is 6 in the evening sharp. Fire for that! This you don't want to miss. Sponsors.
So we are coming with a force. Yeah. Blessings we are reaping, we coursing on.
Belize, get ready to experience the tech event of the year. Cellular World presents its very first nationwide Expo 2023. Celebrate Belize in style and gear up for massive savings on all your favorite tech brands wherever you're located in Belize. Mark your calendars from September 14th to the 16th. Stop by our store for our Grand Expo in-store sale. But that's not all. We're taking the Expo excitement to every corner of Belize, making it a true nationwide expo. Visit our booth at Expo 2023 at the Marion Jones on September 16th and 17th. Enjoy Expo on the island at our San Pedro store on September 17th. And our Norteños, we're coming to Orange Walk and Corzal on September 22nd and 23rd. On September 29th and 30th, we're heading down south to PG and Dangriga. Yes, you heard right. No matter where you are, the same incredible expo deals at your fingertips. From north to south and east to west, Cellular World nationwide expo deals will be the best.
Cut the cords. Choose efficiency with Axit Switch technology. Only at Benny's. Quality and savings.
Welcome back. We are picking up from where we left off, and the conversation is about Belize and its national identity gaining independence on the day before and after. Where we left off was having to do with us not very well experiencing that type of conflict or struggle the way our neighbors would have. That so much so that they would say that we didn't really have a hard time gaining independence, that it was a smooth transition to independence. So let's continue the conversation from there where we left off.
Yeah, when we look at the epochs, the early 19th century was one where our neighbors, their different zones were led by caudillos. And so the caudillismo of Latin America was not playing out in Belize in that way. Mind you, we did have some political caudillismo, whereby it smoothed the transition from the colonial system of governance to one of independence. I believe that one of the things was, given the changing times and the way that our education system and our religion systems kind of indoctrinated us to be passive is something to delve more into. At the same time, the early 1950s, 1960s, in terms of the political arena, had led into this um, into this scenario whereby the political leaders were able to speak with the people. So those connections, those conversations, if you may, were more, as you rightly pointed out, at an intellectual level. They were more of a conversational, they were more about ideas that need not be imposed by violence. Mind you, there were instances in Belize of persons losing their lives, as you know, we went through. We see the reaction, the resistance, particularly as a result of the heads of agreement being interpreted or misinterpreted, depending on the different points of view. And individuals, of course, resisting. So much so that we went into independence under a state of emergency, under a curfew. I remember us going to the theater to watch movies on Friday nights, the double headers. They would begin at 6 so that by before 9 p.m., movie is over, we're home. We did hear about individuals who the police arrested for being outside after the curfew hours. But generally, the transition into independence, the long struggle was more at the diplomatic level. At the local level, it was about discussion, debate, ideas. We know of individuals and perhaps even families who continue to be on opposite sides, but it's all about the political viewpoint, the political perspective. Yet, when you consider the independence movement and what has happened after independence, it is known that both major parties were for independence, and both were with conditions, but each in their own way. So yeah, we may still continue to be passive, but I guess the changing times called for it as such.
So Belize gains its independence on September 21st, 1981. So there's all the pomp and ceremony that came along with the whole transition from British Honduras to Belize to it becoming a sovereign nation and what have you. What was it like immediately afterwards? You were around. What was that feeling?
Somehow I feel that it was, the ceremony for us as teenagers. I think we went back to school immediately after. A lot of the things that were happening was being left to the adults. And it's until you're 18 that you begin to, now you're supposed to be your own man, be your own woman, and begin to work. So but we know then that people in the communities continued their life. When you look at the newspapers, for example, the Belize Times highlights the independence transition. The other newspapers downplayed it. They don't make much headlines. We eagerly awaited, we heard about the speech at the United Nations, the raising of the flag at the United Nations. And so for many of us, our families in particular, we kept on listening to the news, and so the discussion in the various circles was, okay, we're independent, so what's next? Well, what's next is we got to do our share. We have to do our fair share. That is what most of us, and I think I speak for my contemporaries, that's what we were looking for. But life in and of its own way, it's until later on when we begin to read the preamble of our Constitution and to understand what those constitutional consultations were about and what the people were saying. We realize that the values, the principles, all these objectives is what we would want for ourselves. So for me, I started more delving into history around 1987. And that's when I become more familiar with, the Constitution and what it really means, what it should be for. And having gone into the classroom at that point in time required that I do more reading in history. Because how are you going to teach something that you're not familiar with?
Yes.
You know, so so much so then that looking at it now, was the transition to independence at that time good? I would dare say yes. Nothing happens if it's not its time.
Let's go in a different direction and discuss briefly the flag. I want to talk about the coat of arms and the motto, Suburban of Laredo. Let's start there. Or maybe we could throw it over to you.
Well, I think ISCR did a full analysis of the flag and, and the motto and everything not too long ago. And in fact, that's when I think there was a launch of the flag, a standardized version of the flag. So perhaps Pinello could comment on that process.
But also just before, I think, just to speak to the designers of the flag as well. And we touched on that yesterday, Mr. Pinello. So I understand that there was a transition to what would be now the standard Belizean flag. So we can talk about all of that.
Okay. Yeah, the flag itself, from what we have, from what we research and we find out, with the People's Committee, the nationalist movement, 1950s, the recall of a blue and white flag flying out of Courthouse Wharf. And that became the symbol, particularly for the People's Committee, which transitioned into the People's United Party. We see also the integration of the coat of arms, and I'll talk about the coat of arms afterwards. But in terms of what is the national flag, throughout the 60s, we know that there were also, especially leading into self-government in 1964, we realized that there was already a move for the identity symbols. Earlier, you were mentioning about England and were they opposed to? Well, actually, they could not, because the United Nations resolutions already were pushing for the self-determination of peoples throughout the colonies. So the decolonization process was in play. And so when it comes to the flag, then there's already a movement to understand that symbols for nationhood are important. The flag itself in 1981, there was a competition which submissions were given to the National Symbols Committee, and we understand that the late Everal Waite and Mr. Ines Sanchez put their heads together. They created the design, and they being aware of the political divide in the country, decided that, you know what, the blue and the red, let's get the red fringes, the horizontal fringes. So it adds to that political. So technically we could say we have a nationalist political flag, you know, up for debate. In terms of the coat of arms, the research we did some years ago reveals that there's a similar coat of arms in terms of the depiction of the human beings. The most unique flag in the world is Belize's one. It has over a dozen shades, a dozen colors. We've heard the debate of the yellow man and the flag.
Yellow man,
you know, so those transitions.
We'll get to that shortly, but go ahead.
Yeah. But the early 19th century reveals that an individual known as Thomas Pickstock,
from which Pickstock Street is
he was a
named.
colonial magistrate, early 19th century, 1800s. There's also the move for the recognition of the territory of Belize, and that required also a symbol, and that symbol would come in the form of a seal. Whether this was his personal or not, you know, this is what he used. But I recall a trip to Jamaica, and at the military museum, there's also an emblem that looks very much like our coat of arms. and it's with the British West India Regiment. Remember that the British West India Regiment, as they rose, the rank and file were Afro-descendants, were Africans. Many of them who had been enslaved or had been later on, after 1807, having been with the abolition of the slave trade, many of them were added on to, they would take on the role of military figures. Anyway, the British West India Regiment has two men standing up as part of their shield, as part of their coat of arms. The olive branches are halfway through. I must make note here that what the wreath that our coat of arms has are not olive branches. They're called the scorn of the earth. That's the type of plant that adorns the coat of arms. So the transition then, by the 1800s, the early 1800s, there's a need for a seal of the colony. We see in 1819 people like Marshall Bennett, again another slave owner, Thomas Paslow, another magistrate slave owner, are the people who move, and they were the magistrates, of course, in the public meeting system of governance. They moved the motions for such a seal. And by 1821, the same year when our neighbors, the neighboring countries are claiming their independence, the territory of Belize has a seal that converts to that. We also see the similar seal in, for example, the British Honduras Almanac. Prior to that, I see it in the 1826 British Honduras Commercial Gazette and Commercial Advertiser, the Honduras Gazette and Commercial Advertiser. So these, this symbol of two men with weapons or with paddles and axe begins to be a part of it. We see the ship. You know, we were taught, oh, the ship on the coat of arms is the Marlin. The description, the official description from prior to that is a ship. We know that Pickstock, Bennett, all these fellows, they had ships that would transport the woods from Belize, the timber from Belize. So coming further to 1898, that's when we begin to see, right around that time, we begin to see also the motto shoulder to shoulder, you know, which now the BDF has adopted into their motto. The movement for emancipation also brings out these type of scenes. It's in 1907, and the work that we have done with the Belize Archives and Record Services and the Belize National Library and Information Systems, particularly at the National Heritage Library in Belmopan, has also, we've been able to find documentation to 1907, when the College of Arms in England, the Heraldry College, receives actual copies with descriptions of the coat of arms. That would transition into independence. We know that in 1971, as Mr. Rudy Castillo writes in his book, George Price, Profile of a Man of the People, he notes that it was around that time that the addition of the entire wreath is put onto a flag. Interestingly, and if for those of you who visit the Museum of Belize, our sister branch of Niche, there's the exhibit right now on the speeches of George Price, and there's also memorabilia from George Price. The George Price Center for Peace and Development has graciously collaborated with the Institute for Social and Cultural Research, Niche, in bringing these things to the general public. And we will soon be in the other municipalities with the exhibit. Very important pieces of our history. So the coat of arms then by 1971 is the flag, the Belizean flag begins to look like what we have, except for the red horizontal bars. That is until independence, with the National Selection Committee officially adopting it. There have been some changes afterwards. I know that Manolo Romero was asked to also assist in in the redesign, if we could say that, to now show that the individuals depict what is termed as a mestizo Belizean and an Afro-Belizean. The colors of our national flag now have been settled once and for all. There are the coordinated colors, and they are in line with the international system of colors. And there's also the measurements. A standard flag is 5 feet, 60 inches in length by 3 feet in width. If you divide it horizontally, it's divided into thirds, so that the white circle in and of itself measures 20 inches. And of course, you would do that proportionately depending on the size. Huh? The wreath itself extends to 18.5 inches. So then the coat of arms then fits perfectly in. The diameter itself is 20 inches, as we were mentioning, no, of the white circle. Then the horizontal bars are averaging 3.5 inches on either end. That is a standard Belizean flag.
You're having a lesson right here?
Yeah, I know. What I want you to also include is what a lot of people don't remember to include is the number of leaves on the wreath and what it represents.
Okay, the number of leaves are 50. 25 in the inside, 25 on the outside. And it is representative of the birth of the nationalist movement. Bear in mind that on the 31st of December 1949, the then British governor had signed this bill that devalued the British Honduras dollar. And that gave birth the following day, the 1st of January 1950, and thereon to the People's Committee. That People's Committee is seen as the giving birth also to the nationalist movement for independence. So the 50 leaves on the scorn of the earth wreath is reflective of that era.
Okay, so I know we're winding down at this point, but I have two other important aspects that I would want for you guys to touch on: the national anthem and the national prayer. And I know that's a lengthy conversation in and of itself, but if we could fit that into all of this.
Okay, for the national anthem, we know that the patriot, Samuel Haynes, had originally written it as a poem, as Land of the Gods. It became, music was added to it by Dr. Selwyn Walford Young. And from the records I have seen, and particularly 1950, I was looking through the Belize Billboard, which, by the way, Philip Golson was editor, George Price wrote in it, Lee Richardson wrote several articles. So when I look at it, there is Land of the Gods. It's included in the Belize Billboard of 1950. I think I saw it in the August or September edition. But I also know from the historical records, and particularly a document of 1962, which we found at the Belize Archives and Record Services, that it was known as the Victory Anthem. Interestingly, no, the Victory Anthem. And it was required for use at the when Australia hosted the Empire's Commonwealth Games. So there was a request for that, and we did some work for the National Olympic Committee in researching this. So there's a 1962 document that says that the Land of the Gods was a popular song. That's what it says, it's a popular song. But it was adopted by the executive as the Victory Anthem to be played at the Commonwealth Empire Games out of Australia. By the again with the 60s, 70s, it is also being presented as the next anthem for Belize once God Save the Queen would be removed upon independence. And so I learned it in primary school as Land of the Gods. The transition to Land of the Free is again by virtue of the National Selections Committee. But quickly, let me also point out that the anthem, Land of the Gods, Land of the Free, was not well received initially. In fact, there was controversy, even with the author Samuel Haynes, saying he wasn't in agreement or he was not consulted. We, however, know that in 1973, Dr. Walford Young had visited, and he had made a declaration during the Radio Belize days that both himself as the composer of the music, along with Samuel Haynes, the writer of the author of the poem, now turned anthem, had finally agreed that yes, it should be used because the use it was being given was for a national identity purposes. So then that's, in a nutshell, that's some of the historical backdrop, the archival backdrop we've gotten. In 1972, 73, the national anthem as we hear it was performed in the BBC by a symphony orchestra.
Wow.
There is a note from then Premier George Price to the BBC producer, Mr. Steedman, for the production of that national anthem by the symphony orchestra. The arrangement in 1962, because we have also copies of the musical score, was by one J.H. Pearson. I wish we could find, I was speaking with Mr. Pook and actually the director of BARS, Mr. Kevin Montero. If we could somehow get in touch with Australia and get a copy of the tape that the authorities at the time in 1962 had forwarded to them for those Commonwealth Games. But in a nutshell, the national anthem, when we look at it, there has also been an attempt, the words, manhood. I know there was a time when there was, how does it include women? Again, but that is good. It's healthy conversation because you want it to reflect the society per se. So in any case, the national anthem again is one of another element of our identity. The historical backdrop, the words that it brings out still resonate. And I only hope and pray that our young generation will pay homage to our national anthem whenever it's being played, wherever it's being played, and likewise to show our respect to these national symbols, the flag in particular, wherever it is. This is what represents us. We claim to be proud Belizeans. What better than these symbols? What better than to show respect for such symbols that highlight our identity?
All right. Well, gentlemen, we enjoyed this conversation. It was insightful and, of course, timely as we are on the eve of Independence Day. I'm looking forward to having further conversations like this. Thank you, Mr. Pinello, for your input as well on the flag. And also, as we mentioned this morning, Isani, that will be one of our features for this week where we further go into detail on how the flag came to be. Thank you as well, Delma, for your information that you provided as well as a historian. All right. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, are you ready for the Belize Soca and Culture Fest? Find out after the break.
Hello, friends. I'm Dr. Bob Roberts with another 60-second sermon from God's Word.
The Bible says, "Wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way? By taking heed thereto according to thy word." People often ask, can you live a Christian life and stay clean in a wicked and dirty world? In 1980, while preaching in the village of Big Falls in the Toledo district of Belize, where it rains about 161 inches a year, a young teenage girl reminded me, "You could." One Sunday I was invited with others by her father to her home back in the bush and on the river for a meal. After lunch, I walked outside to see her standing surrounded by water and mud in a perfectly clean white dress. As I looked at her, I thought, if that young lady can stay clean in this environment, then why cannot we stay clean in a dirty world? The Bible tells us how we can. First, we must heed God's word. Secondly, we must draw nigh to God. Thirdly, we must ask God to cleanse us. Fourthly, we must learn to live a daily cleansed life by confessing our sins. The Bible says if we confess our sins, He is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Let these truths guide you today. Today's 60-second sermon has been presented by Christian Foundations of Faith in cooperation with the Baptist churches in your area.
My beautiful Belize, my land of the free, my home and it's bound by the Caribbean Sea. Belize, we are free and independent, we're free and independent, free and independent, to be whatever you wanna be, free and independent, we're free and independent, free and independent, we're changing our country, we're free, so make we celebrate with smart, come celebrate with smart, make we celebrate with smart. Let's celebrate with smart. So make we celebrate with smart. Come celebrate with smart. Make we celebrate with smart. Let's celebrate with smart.
The entire Smart family wishes all Belizeans a safe and happy September celebration. Smart, bringing people together.
Get between Belize City, Key Cocker, and San Pedro on a ferry faster than anyone else with Caribbean Sprinter. You better Belize it. Get with us online at sprinter.bz.
Get ready, babe. We're going on a vacation.
Finally, where are we going?
Don't worry, babe. I have we covered.
Are you sure you know where we're going?
Yes, babe. Oh, right there, see? Babe, the price was too good to be true. Me look much more better in that picture.
When life throws you a curveball, Belize Bank has your back. With our online financing, you can turn any vacation mishap into a dream getaway.
Cheers to Belize Bank for making our dream vacation a reality.
Thanks to you, babes, to turn things around.
No thanks to you, cheapo.
Ouch.
Experience the future of financing with Belize Bank online, where you can secure funds for anything, from anywhere, at any time, all without stepping foot in a bank. Apply for a loan today and unlock a world of possibilities.
And we'll be back in a few, so stay tuned. Thanks, Jen. Hey there, we know you have to head out to work shortly, but don't forget that you can stay tuned by watching us on our Facebook live stream. Find us at Open Your Eyes BC, and you can continue watching there. You can also download Facebook Watch on your streaming device, and you can watch at your own convenience.
And for all the behind-the-scenes fun, follow us on Instagram at OYEBelize. So,
find us
and follow us
today.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Marian Ali, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 Belize teams do whatever it takes. Go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 Belize on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Because news is now everywhere, all the time. And so are we.
Like any September in Belize, the citizens were on the march. But this year, in addition to the Red Cross, Boy Scouts and friendly societies, there would be soldiers of the British Army. Royalty was arriving. In this case, Prince Michael of Kent, appointed to represent the Crown in the transition from colony to nationhood. In the days prior to the 21st, the Prince, accompanied by the Governor and the Premier, toured the country by helicopter. Wherever they stopped, entertainment was never far away.
Under the escort, we have the miners and we're presenting to the Memorial Dance.
While the people danced, British and Belizean troops kept a careful lookout toward the border. Guatemala, alone among the family of nations, had failed to endorse our independence, as we were reminded by the signs at the border. But opposition to independence was not limited to Guatemala. Here in Belize, the opposition, United Democratic Party, boycotted the festivities. September 20th, 1981, minutes before midnight.
Parliament, on your behalf, may I offer a toast to Her Majesty the Queen of Belize and the head of the Commonwealth. Her Majesty.
September 21st, 1981, Independence Day.
My Social Security is your secure online account to manage all your Social Security information. My Social Security launched in March 2021 with registration service to apply online for new or replacement Social Security cards. Upgrades to My Social Security continues with a new look, enhanced customer experience, and its newest feature, Sickness Benefit Online application. With My Social Security, you can create your account, log in, and take control of your Social Security information. This includes applying for a new or replacement Social Security card for yourself, child, or dependent. Make appointments online and submit your complete sickness benefit claim package. Our customer care team is here to provide you, our valued customers, with real-time support. Connect with one of our customer care agents through direct messages on WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, or live chat, or follow our YouTube channel for more information. Social Security at your fingertips. My Social Security.
Not only do we have the most reliable ferry service between San Pedro, Keycocker, and Belize City, we also have a pretty awesome crew. Check us out at sprinter.bz.
Your life just got a lot less complicated with Belize Bank Contactless MasterCard Debit Card. Introducing our Standard Debit and MasterCard Platinum Debit Cards. Now you can make purchases anywhere MasterCard is accepted with one tap, pay and go. Your contactless card never has to leave your hands, especially in these times. And your card is embedded with multiple layers of security. Platinum card holders get to enjoy extra benefits like price protection, purchase protection, trip inconvenience, and luggage protection, just to name a few. Start enjoying a cashless lifestyle today with the Belize Bank.
And welcome back. Man, I'm excited. Our final segment of the show this morning, we have been joined by the legendary dancehall musician, none other than Beenie Man himself, in studio with us this morning. He's also joined by the One Gal Army. She's a DJ who will be on the Wheels of Steel tonight.
Yes.
And of course, our familiar face here, DJ Dalla. And these guys are here this morning to talk to us about the Soca and Culture Fest that's going down in the Belize City Center tonight. Good morning, gentlemen and lady.
Good morning.
And
Blessings.
welcome.
Blessings, and thank you for welcoming me.
Respect.
Blessings.
Welcome. And hey, it's glad to have you back, Beenie Man.
Yeah. It's nice to be back.
What's the vibe like this time?
Well, the vibe is different, you know. The vibe is always different because the last time was outside. Now we're inside the Civic Center. And yeah, the vibe is going to remain the same.
Every time Belizeans hear Beenie Man is coming to town, everybody is so hyped up and prepared because they know what you bring to the stage.
Yeah.
And you have a very deep catalog of music.
Yeah.
What do we expect from you tonight?
Well,
just a little hint of what era of your catalog you're going to be featuring.
No, well, we're going to start from 90s come up. Yeah, because we have to do that because it's all about a treat. You know, you have to treat the fans them the right way, the fans them treat you back the same way. And, you know, tonight we have a band. It's not Kurt Riley tonight. You know, tonight we have a band and full band. Zagazo band is here tonight. So it's going to be wicked. Nice. So I hope you come out with the energy and with everything we have to give. Because
some for the young and some for the old.
Yeah, there you go. See? So if you don't even know the songs, you grew up on the songs.
Yes.
And if you didn't grow up on the song, you're born through because of this song. Yeah, that's what I can say. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Now, we also have with us one
gal
army. And I'm so excited to see you on the stage as well and to show us what you bring because there's a specific reason why your stage name is One Gal Army. So let's talk about that.
So, yeah, One Gal Army kind of stems from just me being an army by myself. Literally, the name speaks for itself. When I pick up a mic, when I get behind the turntables, you'll see it would sound like
it's an army behind me.
Yeah.
But it's literally just me. It's just the one gal army. So that's where that comes from.
And what are you looking forward to bringing to the stage tonight?
I'm just looking forward to energy. I'm just looking forward to just, you know, to relate to the audience, to be able to, you know, get a feel of how the Belize gets down. You know, I've done this in a lot of different places, but, you know, I love being able to go to new places and feel their energy and see what, you know, well, what new memories, what can you bring out of me tonight?
Yeah.
Like every place is something different. I surprise myself, so, but I'm excited to see what Belize can bring out of me tonight. Yeah.
You're gonna be frightened, bro. I Belize,
you think?
They bring it.
Yeah, I love it, but I live off of energy. I feed off of energy. I always say this: the more energy you give me, the better I play.
Right now, people plug in.
Well,
and I charge up.
Bring that energy. I'm gonna match it. You give me energy, I'm matching. I promise you, I'm matching your energy.
Let's go over to the promoter though. Let's talk about the Soca and Culture Fest for this year. How you guys arrived at the lineup, and of course, what fans of soca music, of Patrice Roberts, and fans of Beenie Man can look forward to tonight.
So we're going into our 10th year, except for COVID, so 9 years, and every year we try to mix it up and add. The name Soca and Culture doesn't mean just soca, but we're moving into, you know, trying to different genre. Come next year, maybe we'll do an Afro pop or something. But this year we decided that we want a king, and we want a queen. Not better than having the king and queen in your yard. You can't go wrong with it. I mean, the catalog of music between Patrice and Beenie Man, man, it's like they're like two hit machine we have.
Yeah.
And so we decided that this year we're gonna go that route. We normally do the Marian Jones, but because Expo finishes Sunday, they had until Monday, and we couldn't use the Marian Jones, just a day and a half to prepare for the magnitude of a show like this. So we decided to go to the Civic Center. But I know for sure what Beenie Man brings to the table. I know what for sure Patrice brings to the table. So the audience are out for an experience tonight like no other. It's going to be like you have maybe 15 artists on a stage tonight, because Beenie Man by himself is like 10 artists. Patrice is like 5. So tonight I'm telling you, tickets are almost sold out in terms of the Ultra and the VIP that is on the court. Bleachers is on the general is on the bleachers. So I urge you to go to Cellular World and get your tickets. But it's going to be a crazy show tonight. Beenie can attest to it. Beenie know every time he comes to Belize, Beenie Man we don't even have to sing half of his songs.
The call and response. The call and response is serious. Right?
Yeah.
Beenie Man just have to say corn and then I say and soup.
And soup, man.
But you know, DJ Dala, I wanna take things back, because you mentioned that this is the 10th year or the 9th year if you exclude COVID. What started with the reason of having this event in the first place?
Well, you know, over the years they had, you know, Byron Lee traditionally. We used to do Byron Lee and then different artists, and then we went through a whole lull, maybe 6 or 7 years without really having a big September. And then we'd start and we said, look, 2013, we did Marshall. And, well, you know, we outgrow our bar field, and then we moved to a bigger venue, and then we did Bunjigal, and we did Conscience, we did, you name it, we Kiss. We brought everybody. And so, you know, this year was like, yo, king and queen, but it has been a long journey. We had journeys, years whereby the pocket took a licking. But if it's something that we have a passion for and we want, we have to continue to drive. And so we ask the people to come out and support it. We're giving them top-notch, high-class entertainment in terms of, it's not easy to get a Beenie Man. You know how much trouble this guy give us?
Always booked out, right?
Always booked out. To get a Beenie Man, it's not, people don't understand the logistics behind the scenes that we have to go through. You understand? So we ask you guys to come out. It's going to be a nice show tonight. Get your tickets. Tickets is only available at the box office or Cellular World in Belize City, the 3 locations.
And the price of the tickets?
The price of the ticket is $45 for general, $125 for VIP, and $225 for ultra VIP. And I don't sure if we have any more ultra VIP or VIP. So you got to check the outlets and see what they have left.
Well, Beanie Man, I have to say that this is the first time I'm meeting you, so I'm a little bit starstruck over here.
That's it.
But I guess I want to know, you know, what's the experience like every time you find out that you're taking a visit to Belize? What is your connection personally to Belize?
Well, I've been coming to Belize and never done show, like never in this world of niggerdom. Belize is always a place that bring the vibes, like 100%. Trust me. And tonight
I can play music like on the Trini, and my father is Jamaican, so I have the best of both worlds. To my opinion, you know, I got the Trini music and then the dancehall in Jamaica and the reggae music. So, but besides that, my dad, which is Jamaican, he listens to a lot of different genres of music. So I grew up listening to literally all types of music, where I grew up loving music. So now when I was hanging around a certain group of friends, they were DJs, and you know, he was playing one time and he walked away, went to the bathroom, and I was just being, you know, come back down. So this specific weekend after the backyard, radio station with me, no problem. I went, we turned up the radio station. From then, I recently had to sit back and tell myself, okay, we've been kind of doing this kind of wild. Possibilities are endless with these. As long as I put, my father was telling me, if you want good, you know it's off a run. So with that being said, like I just put my all into whatever I do.